Welcome back to the second lesson in my Level 2 Performance and Technique course within the Beginner Piano course. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so, and if you like what you see, give this video a thumbs up. If you'd like to buy the book, there's going to be a link to that below, and I also offer online piano lessons. If you'd like to see more information about that, links are below. So in this video, we're going to learn J.S. Bach's Musette, or technically it's called Gavotte number 2 from English Suite number 3, BWV 808, a very long name to identify it. So it's technically Gavotte 2, but it's referred to as Musette, or in the style of a musette. I would say is definitely the most challenging in the book, or one of the most challenging pieces, and take your time with it, especially if you're a very beginner. It's going to take time to get it right, and it really works on phrasing and finger independence. Now, let me give you a bit of background about the piece. So, as I said, it's from English Suite, which is a collection of dances. And the suite is in G minor, but this piece is in G major. We can see the F sharp in the key signature. Again, I tried to stay very, very close to the original score. I mean, I did see many different editions, but the only thing I added in this specific score here is the slurs in the right hand and a couple of restrikings of those G's in the left hand. So as you can see, or as you could see in my playing, the G in the left hand is sustained all the way through, and in the original score that's one very long G in the second half. But in order to get a richer sound, we can restrike that G a couple of times when a new phrase is starting. So the purpose of these slurs that I added in is to kind of show you where the phrases start and where they end. That can give you a little bit of hint into dynamics. The original score obviously had no dynamics, so you can add your own. I added a little bit of my own to my own liking, but that's by no means the only way of adding dynamics to it. So the key challenge here is finger independence. The left hand is holding down this G and playing a melody all the way through while that G is being held down. And that's very difficult because you need to be able to move all the other fingers without lifting up number 5. The right hand is playing a fairly simple melody with crotchets and quavers, or quarter notes and eighth notes, but there are a couple of tricky fingerings in the right hand. So let's start with the first line. The right hand starts on a D, number 3, and this is an upbeat because the first bar only has 2 beats, but we're supposed to have 4 crotchets or 4 quarter notes in a beat. So let's start. I'm going to show you the first phrase. 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2. And that's the first line. So I basically separated the first line into 2 phrases. You don't have to, you can play it as one phrase, but I felt like at the G a new phrase is starting. So lots of crossings. Here is the first one, 1 on the D, then a big stretch, 3 on the G, F sharp, D, 3 on the G, and 1 on the G, and finishing off on the B. Now, every time you try to convey good phrasing, you want to do a bit of crescendo when the melody is rising and round off the ending, so you get a little bit quieter towards the end of the phrase. It's very important to keep the rhythm very nice and tight, so crotchets, quavers, you can go ta, ti, ti, ta, ti, ti, ta, or 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. Whichever counting you go with, make sure the quavers are always twice as fast as the crotchets, and you hold the crotchets to the full value. Left hand. So we're going to start in this G position, and first of all, we're going to break this into 2 parts. We're going to first play the upper part, just so we really understand the melody, because it's a 2-part melody with the bottom note being held. So 3 on the B, we're going to play all the notes which are stemmed upwards. So as you can see in two-part writing, those notes whose stems go up belong to the first part, and those notes whose stems go down belong to the second part. Now, of course, when you have a semibreve or a whole note, it doesn't have a stem, but we can imagine it goes down. And if you know nothing about two-part writing, then you need to understand that in both parts, you need to have the same amount of beats. So in the top part, we need 4 beats, and in the bottom part, we need 4 beats as well. So in the second bar, you can see we've got 4 crotchets in the top part and a semibreve or whole note in the bottom part, so 4 and 4. And it doesn't add up to 8 beats because they go at the same time. So 3 on the B, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So beautiful legato in this left-hand melody as well. It's another independent melody of its own. And you can see the last note has 2 stems. It goes up and down at the same time. So you can technically hold the G, but you need to restrike that G in order to be able to play the top part. So let's add in this G now here in the bottom. So we're going to hold it down and trying to really not let it come up. And now I'm going to release it and restrike the G at the end. Now you'll find that the hardest note to play is the one with finger 4 because they are so interconnected with 3, 4 and 5. So lots of practice here, keeping the hand relaxed. Do not push that 5th finger very strongly down because it's going to lead to tension and it's going to be even harder to play. So very slowly trying in the beginning. If finger 5 keeps coming up like this, then try even slower and really concentrating on keeping down finger 5. So at this speed, 3, then lift up the 3 and go to 4, then back to 3. Now there are 2 ways of playing it. You can play it detached, which is going to be much easier. And although the score doesn't have any slurs, I chose to play it legato because it gives me a nicer, more musical effect. But by all means, you can try to play it first detached. And when you manage to play it detached, you can start playing it legato, which is going to be much, much harder. And this applies to the rest of the piece. We're going to hold down that G all the way through. So hands together, first line. I'm going to lift up my right hand, new phrase. And there's a repeat sign, so I need to play it twice before going on to bar 6. So that was the first line. Let's go on to bar 6 and do the next phrase until the end of the second line. So right hand again starts 3 on the D. Now 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 2, 3, 1. So here we've got thirds going. So 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 2. Skips going on. And then we've got number 2 on the E. And we stop on this beautiful chord here. And that's the end of the second phrase in this second line. Left hand, let's play again the top part first. It's going to be a bit trickier here. 3 on the B, 3, 4, 1, and now a big stretch to E, number 2, and crossing 1 under. B, Ti, Ti, Ta, Ta. And let's add in the G now. Very stretchy. And let's play it all together. Right hand comes up. And as you could hear in the introduction, I played this final chord as an arpeggiated rolled up chord. Because when we play Baroque music, especially Bach, there are so many things that we can add. The score is just a framework. There's a lot of ornamentation going on, especially at the repeats. We can arpeggiate chords. You have to remember this was not written for the modern piano, so they used to play it very differently. But for a beginner at this level 2 stage, we do not need to worry about ornamentation or rolling the chords. The only thing we need to worry about is to get this finger independence moving in the left hand and to get beautiful legato and phrasing. And later on at the higher levels, we can start to add ornamentation and to make it more stylistically appropriate. Let's go on. We start at the end of the second line, number 2 on the A, right hand. 5 on the E, 4, and then number 4 on the C. 2 on the F sharp, 1, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1. And that was a very long phrase. Left hand is going to be very, very tricky here. 2 on the C, we play the top part again. Then crossing over, 2, 1, 2, 3, A, B, C, D. And we're going to put 3 on the C, 2 on the E, and back to 1 on the D, C, B, C. Let's add in the G. Three, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So quite a lot of awkward fingering there, but that's the only way to get through legato. If you don't play it legato, then the fingering is less crucial. It's still important, but you can get away with more options because you can lift up your hand between the notes. Hands together. Making sure I'm playing the notes very accurately at the same time in both hands. Now number 3, 2, 2, 3. And here you can see this is what I was talking about. We have a new G starting, a new tie. And in the original score, this G just carries on, but it's easier to restrike it at the beginning of the phrase. And the tie carries on all the way through. So last phrase, very similar to the first one. Let's go straight, hands together. And now we're going to have a crotchet. And the final G major chord. So watch out for those rests in the left hand. And the final G chord. Now again, in some editions, there's only a G in the bottom. In some editions, there's a GB. Now it's as a full G major chord, we would need that B as well. So I arpeggiated, rolled up my G chord, but you can play it together. Or you can leave out the B. So we got to the end of this very, very difficult piece. The key to learning anything with multiple voices or multiple parts is to work on each part separately. So this piece has 3 parts, 1 in the right hand and 2 in the left hand, and you have to play them separately to be very secure of the finger numbers, to hear the melodies in all of those parts, and to be able to combine them together in a beautiful, well-phrased manner. If you really struggle with number 5, then try just to play some easier exercises first by holding down 5, and just a 5-note scale going up and down as a warm-up to this piece. And if you manage to do that, then you can start again the left hand phrases. This piece goes really well with lesson 4, which is all about the G major scale and the key of G major, and lesson 6, which introduces two-part writing. Lesson 6 introduced two-part writing in Sakura in a much easier form, but this Bach, Musette or Gavotte is taking it to a much higher level and a much more challenging left hand.